Hey there, Scorpio Ascendant. This is your Ascendant Rising Sign forecast for the week ahead, starting Monday, the 24th of November, taking you right the way through to Sunday, the 30th of November, 2025. Now, if you're a bit exhausted from last week, given that there was the coming up to the new moon in the waning phase in your first house, that can be quite tiring because you're not feeling quite so much get up and go as usual. But then that very sort of strong new moon promising, I think, some kind of rebrand, some kind of refocus about how you're seen and understood. That again in and of itself is quite exhausting. And you had like 4 planets in your first house last week, so I think there's lots of change about how you're positioning yourself in the world, and how you feel about yourself, how you feel about what people know about you. And so as we come through this week, you're going to notice that things start to lighten up, and they're moving more now to the energy of money and self-worth. So if we kind of follow this through as a chain, you've gone from considering yourself and getting a little clearer about yourself. I mean, remember, Mercury's going retrograde into your first house, and then towards the end of the week, you'll notice that things are starting to move into finding the value of who you are. So it's not who you are and your identity, it's now moving to what does your identity give the world. And so it's a nice subtle shift. In this week ahead, things should be releasing, things should be starting to feel a little easier. Mercury retrograde is going to go the other way around. So Mercury is going to go direct. Saturn, that's been retrograding since July the 13th, is going direct, and that's going to have a lovely effect on your creativity. It's going to open things up for you in a nicer way. You'll start to feel like you can really push forwards with your creative plans now. So there's a lot of really amazing things, but the most amazing thing I would say is Venus, who is really bossing the charts. She is like the big boss. She's making 5 aspects and also changing signs from your first house into your second. So let's get cracking. If you're new to this channel, by the way, my name's Louisa. Welcome to Feel Good Astrology. Hope you like it. And as I bring up my slides, I always just like to say a big thank you to the people who support this channel, whether it's a historic donation, if it's like a one-off, if it's a regular one, or whether you're also part of my membership. Thank you so much, because you make all of this possible. I really, really adore you. So these are the 2 charts I've pulled up. Now, when I should say this is a Western whole sign tropical chart, using a Western whole sign tropical model. Now, if when you look at your birth chart, and I'm guessing you do because you're watching this channel, when you look at your birth chart, if you've also got Sagittarius in with the Scorpio in the first house, then you also need to have a listen to the Sagittarius, because that will also be relevant to you. Anyway, this is the chart at the beginning of the week, and you'll see the sun's in Sagittarius and the moon's in Capricorn. And then by the end of the week, the sun is still in Sagittarius, is advanced. You'll notice that Venus has moved out of Scorpio and into Sagittarius. And also the moon has gone from Capricorn right the way round to fellow Mars-ruled sign, Aries. So yeah, let's get going. I've listed all of the most important things that I notice, the planet to planet aspect or planet to node aspect. I don't really comment on the moon so much in here unless it's a full moon, new moon, or here, like there's a first quarter. And I'll explain that as we get to it. You'll notice here we've got the 24th, 25th, 26th. That's Monday through Wednesday. Nothing listed for the 27th because there's no exact aspect on the 20th from planets to planets. And then and Thursday, by the way, is Thanksgiving. So if you're American and you celebrate Thanksgiving, happy Thanksgiving for Thursday. And then Friday through Sunday. So we've got 2 things on Friday that are worth noting. Something on Saturday, definitely worth noting, Mercury going direct in your own sign. And then Sunday is a big day. A really great day, in fact, where Venus really steals the show. So what I really notice here, the first quarter, in fact, I'll mention it now. On the 28th, that's Friday, the moon is exactly in a square to the sun. And that brings us from one part of the moon phase, which was the new moon phase, where the moon was growing and we had sowed some seeds and we're waiting for them to come into like a feeling like, oh yeah, it's time to move. And then when that square comes along, between the sun and the moon, all of a sudden something kicks in, and all of a sudden it's time to take action, pull your socks up, roll your sleeves up, get ready for action. So the time for kind of waiting and letting that thing gestate a little bit and sowing those seeds and stuff, no, you're done with that now. Now it's time to work with what has already yielded. And so it's quite an active phase. So from Friday onwards, it's like game on. And the first part of this week, I would still say, is a little bit dreamy. You're still processing things, still visualizing what you want to bring about. Now, on Monday, one of your ruling planets, Mars, which is currently in the sign of Sagittarius, in the second house, which is all about money, and also how you value yourself, how much you allow to come in. I say that really deliberately. I realize that when I'm feeling insecure, it's taken me a long while to realize this. Didn't realize it when I was working for a big company, and I've worked for loads of big companies in my time, because with them you get like I was salaried, so it didn't matter if I was feeling confident or insecure, mostly, or I always did the job and always got paid. But when you work for yourself, it's a lot easier to see the direct correlation between your attitudes and what you receive. One thing I notice is when I take a bit of a dip in my confidence, or I don't feel like I'm deserving enough, all of a sudden views, subscribers, booked clients, it all goes it all goes down. And yet when I feel, using my own language here, when I feel a lot more ready, I feel open, I feel really confident, I know my value, when that happens, things go up. So it's always a really great indication to me, when I look at numbers and what's coming in, and so on and so forth, I know whether I'm feeling good about myself or not. And so this is a real test with Mars in the second house. So if you feel like things are flowing in nicely, it's because you're open enough for them. But if you've got any closure, if it feels like the flow has stopped and there's not much money coming in, and maybe you're not getting much visibility in whatever it is that you're doing, or not enough recognition, to me that's an indication that at some level your Mars is currently not quite there's a lack of confidence somewhere. Maybe there's a deservability script playing in the background. Now, why I mention this is because Mars is in a T-square with the nodes. The nodes, this is the South node here, representing the past and things you've already learnt. And this is really focusing on the future and the things you've yet to learn. But there are also the kind of challenges and the sort of legacies in the future that you're heading off to. Now, if you're not feeling like you're moving forwards in some way, even though Mars is in your second house and traditionally it's like, yeah, let's go for it, and Mars is, one of your ruling planets, then where in your past and in your learning, where you've learned things about collaborating with people and where you've learned things about working with people, where are there things that you still haven't implemented or worked on? Where haven't you used that information or gone into flow with the knowledge of your learning? Because there's something that you haven't applied that is stopping you from being really, really creative and flowing into the creativity. Now, when Saturn goes direct on the 28th, that's Friday the 28th, that flow will reestablish a little bit more. But if your Mars is still very much like, if this rings a bell and you've not done anything with it, Saturn's new flow is going to be diminished a little bit, because instead of having two things going forwards, you've got one thing going forwards and one kind of stagnating. So the Mars thing's important. If there's something that you've learned about working with other people that hasn't worked, and you've not tried the alternative, or whatever you learnt back whenever it was, if you haven't remembered your learning, worked on that learning, developed from that learning, it's holding you back from the challenge of suddenly going into a creative flow. So it's worth asking yourself that. Now, this could have to do also with stepchildren, children that are not yours, family members that are not yours, but are related to your partner, versus moving forwards with your own children. because the 5th house is what you're creating and the 11th is what other people close to you have been creating. So that's also, bearing in mind, if your level of self-esteem and confidence moving forwards is based on the views of people that maybe you struggle with, it's going to be very hard for you to feel like you're able to flow with the people that you are really related to. Does that make sense? So I'm asking, does that make sense, as if you're going to answer me like it's a live conversation. So yeah, Mars is in a bit of a bind now. That's not forever, it's just how it is right now. But if you recognize what I'm talking about, it might just be a simple recognition or acknowledgement of, oh, this is where I was stuck. Okay, I understand that now. I understand Luisa's message. Boom, let's go on. And then from the 25th to the 26th, this is quite a magical little time. But in fact, if I just go back, you'll see it more clearly. Mercury retrogrades and Venus advances. They meet in the middle, like a little kiss between the two of them. This is a very friendly, dynamic motion on Tuesday the 25th in your first house. It's great. It gives you a little bit more of understanding about yourself and helps you to communicate who you are in a much more elegant and right on. I don't mean like it's really like politically right on. I mean it's right on the money for who you are. Like all of a sudden something like lifts up and you see a new version of yourself and you're able to communicate that to other people. Feels really good. And once it feels good, you also notice that Venus, this is on Wednesday, Venus makes an exact trine to Jupiter in the 9th and an exact trine to Saturn in the 5th. This is all about your self-expression, your levels of freedom and expansion, and your levels of utter creativity. And so there's this beautiful flow between Venus, Jupiter, and Saturn on Wednesday. This is a real sweet spot day where it's really important to have a pad and a pen so you can capture all of your ideas, or just record them into your phone, whatever. Obviously, someone might be listening. Like AI will come up and say, "I don't think you meant that. I think you meant this." Or, "Hey, let's make your idea a bit better." You know what I mean? But capture your ideas. Really like think about. Oh crap! My computer's talking to me. Okay, right. Anyway, so yeah, this is a very magical day. So that's Monday to Wednesday. To me, it feels like you're realizing things about yourself so that you can come into action later and feel really magnificent. And then we come to the next part. So the first quarter on the 20th, Friday, it's saying, right, let's get cracking. We're done here. It's time to move. And, on the same day, Saturn goes direct. You're no longer doubting your creative process. You know what you need to do. And it's almost as if the creative dilemma you've had since March 2023, when you had big ideas, didn't know what to do with them, all of a sudden, boom shakalaka, there it is. You see the vision come in and had to move forward. I feel like I'm dancing today. And then on the 29th, Mercury goes direct in your first house, and it's like Friday, Saturday, it's like dominoes, like falling over a little bit slow at the start, and then they pick up speed. Saturn was the first one, Mercury's the second. From now on in, you're going to be a lot clearer about who you are and your creative vision. And then Sunday the 30th, this is lovely. Venus goes into an exact opposition with Uranus. This is across your first house and 7th house. And there's something like an emotional breakthrough about how you see yourself in relationship to other people. It might be a bit shocking because Uranus can shock us a little bit. To me, it's a relationship turning point as well. So, anything that you need to change about yourself in relationship to other people, that's absolutely possible. I think it's also about coming into faith about yourself as you now see yourself. And Venus is right in the final days of Scorpio. She's not happy in Scorpio. She's really intense in Scorpio, and she is trying to sort of acquire the right image for herself. So I do think whatever's coming up, you're seeing yourself differently, and so your partner by default needs to see you differently, or they will, or there'll be that sort of challenge, that sort of mismatch, because we see ourselves changing first, and then it communicates out to everyone else, and of course the people close to us feel it really quite intensely. But at the same time, Venus is in a lovely trine, an exact trine to Neptune, and so it doesn't matter if there's a little bit of an affront or a little bit of a challenge. ultimately that Venus trine Neptune is giving you generosity, forgiveness, this sense of beautiful openness. So, you know, rather than seeing whatever comes up as a challenge, if you can possibly see it as a moment of just re-clarifying, you know, someone's shocked because their vision of you is changing in real time, very, very fast, by the way. You can have so much compassion for them, because if you notice your partner changing so quickly and so magnificently, it might bring up a little bit of insecurity in you. So it's just a realignment, I think, within your relationship. And with that comes a breakthrough. And then finally, Venus goes into Sagittarius on the 2nd. Now, you know, she is a planet of flow. You know, when she goes to the first house and second house, it usually brings about some really good stuff happening. Her coming into your second house is reaffirming who you are and the value that you're bringing. And of course, then we've got Venus, the Sun, and Mars in your second house. It's like go, 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 go. It's like so many green lights. It's amazing. So there you go. That's my quick synopsis. Not so quick, but that's my synopsis of your week ahead as a Sagittarius, as a Scorpio ascendant. Now, if you really like these little journeys I take you on with these forecasts, then you might want to check out my membership. I've got a membership forecast package, you know, where you get daily forecasts Monday to Friday, and also weekly ones, love and money, or my learning membership, all in the same place in school, where we learn together with our charts. You know, we have hangouts and we get together and stuff. Or I'm also opening up 10 spots for a year-long private astrology mentorship that's going to start in January, where we meet on a monthly basis, and you're learning about astrology whilst also learning about your chart step by step, all the rhythms, all the healing. And, you know, over the course of the year, we can bring in, you know, your partner or children, but it's a real kind of, you're learning astrology at your pace, in your way, and I'm just facilitating the whole journey for you. So if any of this sounds like, oh my God, that's what I need, then just get in touch. All of my details are below in the show notes and also on my channel page. So have a wonderful week ahead, and good on you. I say us because I've also got Scorpio rising, but good on you. This is a massive turning point, and hopefully I'll catch up with you all soon. Bye for now.